Fucking hell. Right, go on then. Hurry up.
Hi guys, my name is Dad and welcome to the D&DGaming 2021 Halloween special. Scaring the shit out of us this year is Amnesia, The Dark Descent. Reviewing the game with me is my brother Dav.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Amnesia The Dark Descent is an immersive survival horror game by Swedish developer Frictional Games. Released in 2010 for Windows PC, Mac OS X and Linux, playing as the game's protagonist Daniel, you explore the crumbling dark Brennenburg Castle. While trying to maintain your sanity, you pick up clues to your backstory and solve various puzzles while working your way through the foreboding castle. With frequent unnerving events quickly reducing your sanity, it's only a matter of time before that stalks you appears from the darkness. Amnesia The Dark Descent received critical acclaim upon its release and won 2 awards at the 2011 Independent Games Festival. With such positive reviews, the game was further released on PlayStation 4 in 2016, Xbox One in 2018, and Nintendo Switch in 2019. Following such critical acclaim, now you can see what we think. So Dale, in terms of first impressions, what do you think?
Yeah, so first impressions, it's first-person horror game with puzzle elements. This was my third, I believe, playthrough. So I'm very familiar with the game. I think a lot of people are. You know, it's huge on YouTube at one point with people doing reaction videos back in the day. And I'm sure by now the vast majority of people have at least seen clips of Amnesia. So yeah, not really a first impressions as such, but yeah, it was good to play it through again. How about you?
Yeah, shitty pants psychological horror set in a creepy castle. Well, I guess as I came across the game in 2015, played a few hours, so it's not technically a first impression, but I stand by my first impression. That's why I stopped playing in 2015. That's changed my pants. In terms of general thoughts following the playthrough?
Yeah, so it's almost nostalgic coming back to the game again. It's just such an awesome game. I really do enjoy it. And as I say, I believe it's the third time I've played it. I almost feel like it's one I could come back to once a year or something like that, just to play it through again. But because of that, yeah, I was almost able to like speed run some sections, especially early on, because I was kind of achievement hunting to some extent for the Steam achievements as well. But because I knew some of the puzzles, it just came back to me straight away. So I was able to get through some bits really quick. And I mean, it is a relatively short game, to be honest. According to howlongtobeat.com, it's around 8 hours for most people is the average, which I think is about right, to be honest. It's not too short, not too long. I feel like the jump scares and the general atmosphere would likely wear off or just frustrate you if you were playing it for much longer than that. You know, it's not the sort of game you want to play for like 20 plus hours, like a big AAA game.
Yeah.
You know, you might end up just having a breakdown like Daniel otherwise. But yeah, it's incredibly atmospheric and just great to play it again. How about you?
With a fresh pair of underwear on standby, I kind of tentatively jump back into the game. I'm not the biggest horror game fan. I guess I scare too easily. But it is a great game if you like shitting yourself up, I suppose, especially for Halloween. I spent a lot of time carrying around the chair. I guess for like a barrier and just throwing it around and stuff. And I mean, this game really messes with your head. I mean, it's constantly throwing things in that get your heart rate going. And it always feels like you're being chased, so you're constantly kind of looking over your shoulder. And it's a highly immersive game which draws you in with its really foreboding environment and sound. So definitely play in a dark room with headphones on loud for best effect. So in terms of graphic options,
So there's surprisingly solid kind of options for this, actually. It's not obvious at first. You have to go in the advanced settings, whether that's through the separate launcher or the in-game settings. There is an advanced settings, but actually once you go into that, there's a whole range of options. So perfectly acceptable for the graphic style. In terms of the separate settings launcher, I'm not sure if this is just for Steam, but I spent some time looking at it. I just couldn't work out why they've got the separate launcher, apart from the Justine DLC, which is how you access that. Because I was checking against the in-game options, and the in-game ones actually seem to have slightly more options than the separate settings launcher. So a little bit confusing on that, but ultimately I think the easiest thing to do is just go, if you're going to adjust the settings, just do it in-game, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really find the advanced launcher thing, so I just ran with the settings that were in game, and there are a few options, I guess. We'll throw the PC specs up on screen as usual, but it ran well on my PC, with everything on high, as to be expected with the game of its age on kind of modern hardware really.
So yeah, I ran everything on high. Yeah, as you say, PC specs are up on the screen. Ran smooth for the most part. Did have some slight stuttering in places. Not sure why that is, but again, it's a reasonably old game now on modern hardware. So just for that reason, you can end up with little kind of stutters here and there, but it wasn't enough to cause any issues. In terms of the graphic style, it's quite basic, but again, there's something about it. I just love the style that they've used. It's just completely effective and quite unique, actually. I don't know if that's perhaps because of the setting as well, but there's something about it. You can just instantly recognize that it's Amnesia.
Yeah, I didn't find the graphics were too bad, especially not for an 11-year-old game. And yeah, the style was pretty cool. Like I say, it's pretty unique. I don't think I've seen it in much like that in any other game. Yeah, enough to shit you up every few minutes. In terms of player control options, how did you find those?
Yeah, so I played on keyboard and mouse, and there is full controller support as well, and full key rebindings, which is good.
Also played, yeah, keyboard and mouse, and it's very basic controls, really usual. WASD and left and right mouse click for sort of inventory items and things. And like I say, game has full controller support if you want to use a controller. I thought the left mouse and drag feature for opening doors was really good. It's obviously far from the first sort of game to have that function in it, but I just thought it really worked really well in this, so you could sort of peer through doors and make sure nothing was about to shit you up, and then you could slam it shut and just cower as a psychological wreck in the corner. So this is a first-person game only, which I think is the best for sort of horror games. Third person really just makes it too easy, the way you're able to see around walls and things like that, whereas first person, much better for this sort of horror game, and you can use Q and E to peek around corners and doorways.
So in terms of difficulty options, you've basically got normal or hard. I played it on normal on all of my playthroughs. Might have to try it on hard at some point just out of interest. But I understand it's pretty brutal if you do that.
In terms of story and structure, you play as protagonist Daniel following an amnesiac event. You wake up to find yourself in a dark castle, which you proceed to work your way through, picking up items and clues and solving puzzles. Regular events occur in the darkness, reducing your sanity. Key to the game is keeping your sanity, and the darkness is your enemy. Stray too long in it and you'll regret it. The story gets more and more surreal as it goes on. The game is very immersive in its storyline and it really draws you in. The creepy castle environment is a perfect setting for a horror game, and focuses on the anticipation of something bad happening and really builds it up. It focuses on the psychological elements of scaring you. So for example, being chased or stalked, or the fear of what lurks in the dark and the uneasy feelings that creates. So it messes with you.
So in terms of the UI, it's very simple and basically non-existent other than the inventory, but it's enough for what you need and probably more effective, as you don't have like the health bars on the screen or anything like that taking up your view, which would potentially kind of lose some immersion. So yeah, I think that the UI and inventory system is just perfectly effective as is. So in terms of sound, There's great ambient sounds and general background noise that just creeps you out, to be honest. Effective in the way it builds up that something's about to happen.
In terms of bugs and glitches, did you find anything?
So apart from the slight stuttering that I mentioned from time to time, again, that can be numerous things though. It's not everyone's going to find that. It could be my graphic settings, or that I need to update my drivers or something like that. So I'm not going to hold that against it. But, and funny enough, I did come across one bug. There's a particular section where you're going through and there's numerous torture instruments. You probably recalled it. It's pretty brutal, actually, some of the torture equipment they've got in it, and the flashbacks and stuff like that. But there's one particular one, and there was some water surrounding it, and I was splashing about in the water. Then I left that particular room, but the splashing was still there for like 5 minutes, even on just the hard ground. So I was just running around for that, and it was there consistently until I exited that area and went through a door with the small cutscenes. But it was quite funny, actually. So again, I'm not going to hold it against it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't come across anything like that.
So to sum up, things I liked about the game, the story itself just draws you right in from the start. It's such an effective narrative that they use, and the way you've got like flashbacks to it as through the course of the game. Essentially, you're able to establish how you got to where you are, hence the Amnesia name. I found the placing of objects to make you think something is there was done very well as well. So there was times where I recall there's like some statues with armor on, like knights, and I've noticed, I think they did it deliberately, is they've placed them just within, say, shadows, so you think there's something there or someone there. And I noticed it numerous times throughout the game, and I think they just did it. It was excellent the way they were able to, you come out of the corner and you think, oh, geez, it like gives you a heart attack because you think something's there when there's actually nothing. It's just an object. I thought the puzzles were satisfying to complete without being too easy or too challenging, just about right, really. Again, because I've played it a few times now, a couple of them I was able to just run through really quick, but actually a few of the later ones I'd basically completely forgotten how to do them. So, just challenging enough. I also thought the option for custom story is a nice touch. It's essentially like having a mod menu. You can introduce your own stories into it.
Yeah, so I really like the storyline. It really draws you in, and the voice actors used for the note reading and the cutscene memory parts are really, really good. It was very atmospheric and immersive. Horror games often are, but with its psychological twists and frequent feeling of being chased, that it sort of increases as you go on through the game. The lack of tinder and lantern oil means that you're constantly on edge, trying to conserve them. This means walking around in the dark more often and sending your sanity into overdrive.
In terms of things I didn't like, by default, the hint system, I noticed, basically alerts you to when something is going to happen, something significant. It can be turned off in the options, actually, which is good, but it's almost, I think it could have been perhaps more effective if they didn't have the hint system there by default. But as I say, I mean, it's still completely the way it kind of puts you on edge is done really well, so I can't fault it too much. Some could find the ending a bit frustrating, I imagine. There's 3 alternate endings, and it's one of these games where you can essentially get like a bad ending, a good ending, and a middle ending. But I don't recall the one I got on my very first playthrough, unfortunately, but I could imagine you could quite easily accidentally get the bad ending, which could actually be quite frustrating because of the way it ends. So I think the ending could have done with a little improvement, if I'm being critical.
Yeah, so in terms of things I didn't like, well, yeah, there's very few in this really. I guess changing my underwear, but I guess that's my wimpy problem, not the game. But lack of a weapon, I know why they did it in this game, and it means that your only option is to hide or run, and that shits you up even more than just twatting the enemy in the chops, I suppose, with a weapon. But I still didn't like the fact you didn't have one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a couple of times where I ended up grabbing objects just to, it's almost like protection, because it's one of these games where you can pretty much pick up anything actually. Even to the point of individual books coming off bookshelves and stuff like that. Not all of them, but you can pretty much pick up any object. And yeah, again, probably done to be more effective because it makes you feel more vulnerable without that weapon. But I know what you mean. It would have certainly added a twist to it if there was options to have weapons.
Is there anything you'd like to have seen in the game, or where they might have missed a trick?
Perhaps a checkpoint type save system rather than the autosave. So the autosave's useful at times, but because again, this was not my first playthrough, there was a couple of sections where I wanted to go back on myself, and you can't do it because it's like a autosave system, and then there's a save and exit when you're done with the game. There's no option to go back to a checkpoint just before. I think that would be useful to have for people, certainly for people who've played it through multiple times and perhaps achievement hunting or something like that. So in terms of scores, I mean, there's very little to fault about it really. It's a great game. It's a game I've come back to several times, and will probably continue to actually in the future. And I'd just recommend it to anyone. It's very unique, and it's just up there with one of the best horror games, full stop. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, it's a twisted psychological horror that will have you cowering in the corner, trying to hold your bowels from letting go. So for me, it's 8 out of 10.
Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you in the next one.